The late summer sun hung low over Seattle, casting a golden haze across the glass towers of the city's tech district. The air smelled faintly of coffee and rain-soaked pavement, a familiar comfort to the bustling streets below. Inside the sleek, modern headquarters of Nexus Innovations, the annual company gala was in full swing. Crystal chandeliers glimmered overhead, their light bouncing off polished marble floors. Soft jazz floated through the air, mingling with the hum of laughter and clinking glasses. The event was a celebration of the company's latest product launch, a milestone that had every interns to executives dressed in their finest. Among the crowd was Alina Petrova, a 23-year-old intern who had joined Nexus just 2 months ago. Alina was quiet, her dark brown eyes often fixed on her work rather than the people around her. Her long, chestnut hair was tucked into a simple bun, and her navy dress, borrowed from her roommate Tav, felt a little too tight around the shoulders. She stood near the edge of the grand ballroom, clutching a glass of sparkling water, her fingers nervously tracing the rim. Alina wasn't one for crowds. She preferred the steady rhythm of coding, the predictable logic of her computer screen. But tonight, attendance was mandatory, even for interns. Alina's internship was her first real step into the tech world, a dream she chased since she was a teenager in her small hometown. Nexus was a giant in the industry, and landing a spot here felt like a miracle. But the pressure to prove herself weighed heavily. She spent her days double-checking her work, terrified of making a mistake. Tonight, though, her goal was simpler: survive the gala without drawing attention. She scanned the room, hoping to spot her fellow intern, Dmitry Volkov, who had promised to stick by her side. But Dmitry was nowhere to be seen, likely swept up in a conversation about algorithms or microchips. The ballroom was a sea of faces, confident executives in tailored suits, engineers swapping stories, and caterers weaving through with trays of hors d'oeuvres. Alina's stomach churned. She wasn't good at small talk, and the thought of approaching a stranger made her palms sweat. She took a sip of her sparkling water, the bubbles sharp against her throat, and decided to find a quiet corner to wait out the evening. As she moved through the crowd, her eyes landed on a small table near the back of the room. It was tucked against a floor-to-ceiling window, offering a view of the city's twinkling skyline. The table had only a few chairs, and it seemed quieter than the others, with just one man sitting there, his back to the room. He wore a dark suit, his posture relaxed, his attention fixed on a phone in his hand. Perfect, Alina thought, a low-key spot to blend in. She approached the table, her heels clicking softly on the marble floor. The man didn't look up as she sat down, which suited her fine. She set her glass on the table and let out a small sigh of relief. The hum of the gala felt distant now, muffled by the gentle clink of silverware and the faint melody of a saxophone. Alina glanced at the man across from her. He was older, maybe in his late 40s, with salt and pepper hair and a sharp jawline. His suit was impeccably tailored, but there was something approachable about him, a slight slouch, the way his fingers tapped idly on his phone. Alina leaned back in her chair, letting herself relax for the first time all evening. She took another sip of her drink and stared out the window, watching the city lights blur into streaks of gold and white. The moment felt peaceful, almost like she could forget she was surrounded by hundreds of strangers. But then, her phone buzzed in her clutch. She pulled it out and saw a text from Dmitry. "Where are you?" "I'm by the dessert table. This place is intense." Alina smiled faintly and typed a quick reply. Near the back, by a window, found a quiet table. She hit send and glanced at the man again. He was still engrossed in his phone, oblivious to her presence. Feeling a little bolder in the quiet, Alina decided to make light conversation as something small, safe, to pass the time until Dmitry found her. "Nice view, isn't it?" she said softly, her voice barely carrying over the music. The man looked up, his eyes a deep blue that caught the chandelier light. He smiled, a small, warm curve of his lips. "It is," he said. "You don't see the city like this every day." His voice was calm, with a slight accent. Alina couldn't place him. Maybe East Coast, maybe something else. She nodded, encouraged by his response. "Yeah, I'm not used to places like this. Too many people." He chuckled, setting his phone down. "You and me both. These events can be broken bar overwhelming." Alina relaxed a little more. He seemed nice, unpretentious, unlike the polished executives she'd been dodging all night. "I'm just here because I have to be," she admitted, her voice low. "I'm an intern. I'd rather be at my desk coding than trying to navigate all this." The man raised an eyebrow, his smile widening. "An intern? Huh? What do you do at Nexus?" "Mostly back-end stuff," she said, warming to the topic. "Database management, some API work. It's not glamorous, but I like it. Keeps me out of the spotlight." He nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Sounds like important work. The company runs on people like you." Alina blushed, unused to praise. "Thanks. I just try not to mess anything up." "The CEO's kind of intense, though, isn't he?" "I've heard stories." The man's smile faltered for a split second, but he recovered quickly, leaning back in his chair. "Oh, what kind of stories?" Alina hesitated, sensing she might have said too much, but the man's easy demeanor put her at ease, and the words spilled out before she could stop them. "You know, just a broken bar office gossip. People say he's super demanding, always pushing for perfection. One of the other interns said he once fired someone for a single typo in a presentation. I don't know if it's true, but it's stressful just thinking about it." The man tilted his head, his eyes twinkling with something Alina couldn't quite read. "Sounds like a tough guy to work for." "Yeah," she said, laughing nervously. "I'm just glad I'm too low on the totem pole to ever meet him. I'd probably freeze up and say something stupid." Before the man could respond, Dmitri appeared at the table, his tie slightly askew and a plate of mini Tilda copyright Claire's in his hand. "Alina, there you are," he said, his voice loud enough to make her wince. "You okay? This place is a zoo." Alina glanced at the man, who was now watching them with quiet amusement. "I'm fine," she said, "just a broken bar hiding out." Dmitri's eyes flicked to the man, and his face paled. Alina," he whispered, leaning closer. "Do you know who you're sitting with?" Alina frowned, confused. "What?" "No, we were just talking." Dmitri's voice dropped to a panicked hiss. "That's Ivan Sokolov, the CEO." The world seemed to slow. Alina's heart thudded in her chest, her face flushing hot. She turned to the Manavana, who was now looking at her with a gentle, almost apologetic smile. "You're broken bar the CEO?" she stammered. Ivan nodded, his expression kind. "Guilty." "I didn't mean to let you go on like that. I was enjoying the conversation." Alina wanted to disappear. Her mind raced, replaying every word she'd said about the demanding CEO. She opened her mouth to apologize, but no sound came out. Dmitri, sensing her panic, jumped in. "Mr. Sokolov." "Sir." She didn't mean. Ivan raised a hand, his voice calm. "It's all right." "Really, I've heard worse." He looked at Alina, his eyes softening. "You're not wrong about the pressure around here, but I promise, I don't fire people over typos." Alina managed a weak laugh, her face still burning. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I had no idea." Ivan leaned forward, his tone earnest. "Don't be. It's refreshing to hear an honest perspective. Most people around here tell me what they think I want to hear." The rest of the gala passed in a blur. Alina stayed at the table, partly because Ivan insisted, and partly because she was too mortified to move. To her surprise, Ivan was easy to talk to. He asked about her work, her goals, even her small hometown. He shared stories of his own early days as a coder, back when he was just another shy techie trying to find his place. By the end of the night, Alina felt a strange mix of embarrassment and gratitude. Ivan hadn't judged her for her mistake. Instead, he'd made her feel seen. The next morning, Alina arrived at her desk, still replaying the night in her head. She was bracing for the inevitable gossip as surely someone had noticed her blunder, but instead, she found an email from Ivan Sokolov himself. Her heart sank as she opened it, expecting a polite dismissal. Instead, it read, "Alina, I enjoyed our conversation last night. Your passion for your work is clear, and your honesty is rare. I'd like you to join a special project team working on our next API integration. Your supervisor will have details. Keep being yourself." Ivan. Alina stared at the screen, her eyes stinging with tears. She hadn't just survived the gala, she'd stumbled into something bigger. For the first time, she felt like she belonged at Nexus, not as an invisible intern, but as someone whose voice mattered. The city outside her window sparkled, and Alina smiled, ready to take on whatever came next.